Banduk Marika is the sixth child of the late Mawal and Marika, a highly respected man of law, ceremony, and leader of the artists from Yirrkala. When she was 18, Banduk left her homeland and now lives in Sydney, where she has established a reputation as an artist, working in lino cut and fabric printing. She regularly returns to Yirrkala to be with her family and work with her sisters, Bangal and Dawarawa, who are also artists.
We're looking for a stringy bark tree, and it's the only one that the northern eastern Arnhem Land Aboriginal people use for bark painting. It's a good time to look for it because we've had some rain. The tree will be moist. When you take it off the tree, it rolls itself in. So you have to expand it by heat. And you do it while it's still moist, while you're just fresh off the tree. The ochres we collect along a rocky point, and along there you'll find red ochre and the yellow ochre and the black ochre, and make it into a smooth paste before you paint it onto the bark or whatever. I'm up here because of my brother's death. There's a funeral ceremony on, so I've got to stay here till it finishes. The traditional artwork in the old days were done on body and hollow log coffins and things like that, and used in boys' initiation ceremonies. Boys, when they're getting circumcised, there's traditional designs done then. Funeral times, there's traditional designs done then. But now, traditional art as well as non-important arts are done to for touristy reasons, to sell. My sisters can paint stories about the female sides of the creation. They can do the stories of the travelling of the ancestor, totem stories, goena designs, and the homeland Yalangbra. A lot of people mistake totems for gods, but they don't represent gods, they only represent our creators, our ancestors. Male artists, they do more sacred paintings, designs that women won't be allowed to see. We haven't got any male persons in our family left to carry on the artwork, so my sisters are the only ones to carry that on and teach our brothers' children. That painting Banumi is doing is the story of the two Wolack sisters. One of the sisters were pregnant and had a child at this camp. The yellow human is representing the child. The pythons, the yellow python snakes, they're called wittage, and they smelt the one younger sister giving birth to the child, and one of the snakes came up and swallowed the child. The two sisters cried and they danced and told the snake, you know, you've taken our child, give it back. And they couldn't stop that. In Go for Oodgeroo itself, there's about 12 different clan groups here, and each clan group has their own designs and their own stories of their ancestors. So each different clan has their own totems. You look at an artwork and you see the animals on the design, you know where that belongs to, which homeland. Dunduwoi is one of the clan leaders from the Wannabe people. All his artwork that he does belongs to Kurkawa, where he's living now, that homeland, and his people. And they talk about their ancestors and places and sites in their artwork. So he's one of the important elders as well as one of the very important artists living in Yirkala. When I was going to school in the 60s, my father used to come to school and teach the children traditional how to paint, and some of the other older members used to come and teach children to paint. They're doing that in school now, but in different forms, as well as traditional painting, and they're doing screen printings and things like that up at top school, but not in the camps, not at their homes. Maybe that's because in the old way, you look and observe and not ask questions to learn the traditional art. But it is important for if we could teach the traditional art to our children, because that's our ancestral, that's our history.
Friday night, the big night in the city, when all the tribesmen meet. A big mob of girls and boys cuddle together at the doorway and keep an eye open for police, pretty cars or even prettier girls. This is a new generation now of loud, brash children. 2 years ago, when Silver and Pretty Boy and Dougie were in their warlike prime, these youths used to play quiet pool or run about the street playing kids' games and thinking about hot new love. Now the love is cold and they are men. No one owns them. They are their own bosses. They have cobwebs in their hair and minds, and spider-like they dream up new dastardly deeds for their initiations. They paint on lies and blood from fights to make themselves look elegant with patterns from their new dreaming. They dance to their gods of flashing lights and hopes. The city, squatting like elders around a campfire, has cut off their childhood. It imparted the legends from the alleys and the parks and the third-rate slum houses and the police stations and the jails, as the elders of the past imparted the legends of the land and the law to the ancestors of these youths. So they are truly men in their new country.
Archie Weller wrote the novel Day of the Dog. in a spirit of anger in the 6 weeks following his release from Broome Jail, after what he considered a wrongful conviction. The book received high praise, and his next work, a collection of short stories entitled Going Home, has been called a predestined classic. Much of his early work is about the urban Aboriginal experience in and around Perth, where he grew up.
My aim as a writer, as an Aboriginal writer, is to let everyone know the feelings of Aboriginal people. Because people over in England and America, they're thinking, oh, that's Aboriginal, Stone Age savages are living out there. But there's Aboriginals as well who live in the urban city, but they are magic people, you know, because we've all got a spirit in us, you know, and I'm going to try to impart that on paper. A really important thing about Aboriginal life is their kinship. It's a real wild, bad world out there, you know, and the white people aren't going to love you very much. So but your cousins, are the most important thing. And your cousins get together for a night out in the town, and you're all involved, see? And that's one of the bad things about being in a kinship. I felt really belonged there, you know, because they're really exciting times, you know? And you feel like a king of East Perth.
Two descendants of the kings of the old civilization glance from hooded eyes as a police car swishes past. Elgin digs his hands deeper in his pockets, and his sharp eyes flick over to the taxi parked beside the block of flats that rear up into the sky. It taunts him with its sleek whiteness. The sleek white owner is upstairs in the flats, fondling his white girlfriend between white sheets. The wiry youth crouches beside the taxi, and his teeth pull back in a grin. His thin fingers find a crack where the window is wound down, and he heaves with all his might, puts in his hand and unlocks the door. The utility guides past. Door open, silver paper on the fuses. Two shadows pushing a taxi down the hill. The gentle crunch of tires on cement. A sudden kick and the engine bursts into life. Doors slam and Elgin lets out a howl of laughter as he screeches around the corner. Caesar clutches the door in fright. Elgin Mortimer Bropo lets all his drunken frustration bubble out in one long whoop of joy. A faint, persistent thought hammers at Elgin's mind. Back to jail. Back to jail. E.M. Bropo, back to jail. The wheel between his thin, agile hands whisks the thought away. It bobs with the colored lights here, then is gone.
There is a cycle, you see. People going into jail meet up with all the hardened criminals, you know, and all the people who are really well experienced. And they come out of jail, there's no job for them, they can't get a job, and they can't, it's really unwelcome out there. So they go back to their cousins in it, you know. And that's what happens in Day of the Dog, see? Because the main character was based very much on me. And every time he's trying to get himself somewhere, either his friends come meet up with his friends, or the police get hold of him, and the police just, you know, give him a really hard time anyway, because he's got a bad name and that, you know, and he's black, you know, and he's cheeky. He's trying to be proud, you know, but they just call him cheeky. Inevitably, he's going to come to a violent end.
Hey, Kanye! What do you want? You're all right now, man, move!
He feels powerful now, a veritable lord. He looks at the man's grey face and knows that he has caused the fear he sees there. It truly is his day. He grins across at Floyd, who grins back. Doug turns to the icebox and helps himself to 4 small bottles of Coke in readiness for their victory toast in just a moment. But no one has thought of the old man's even older wife. She emerges now with a shotgun pointed straight at Floyd's pounding, proud chest. As Doug turns from the icebox, he hears Floyd gasp, and his eyes take in the scared woman in whose trembling hands a lethal weapon shakes. A few seconds' pregnant stillness before violence is born. It echoes in Doug's brain like a judge's gavel, like the footsteps of a sentenced man walking to the scaffold.
The one thing about living in the city is you're surrounded by white neighbours, and the Noongar people, the way they live is they're sharing people, you know. It's always been the way. When an Aboriginal person gets a house, it's all of his people's house. White people just don't understand it. And they say, oh, look, yes, another drunken mob of niggers coming, you know, and causing trouble. You're gonna fight all day, drink all night, and don't even work or nothing. And it's not true, because there are people who do work, and there are people who try to make themselves better. But that's in a white way of being better. It's sometimes better to remember that you're Aboriginal. And you can either sell your soul and become a white person, or else you can just stay as you are and be given a hard time by your neighbours.
Our neighbours don't want to know us, really. Mum tries to keep the house clean, and us too. We have a bath every night, but as Darryl jokes, we never get any whiter. But it's not really a joke. No matter what we do to become like white, we're still black, and that's what it's all about. We can't even have a fight or have our relations come around without all the neighbours minding our business. Our house is like our world. Sometimes it's dirty and sometimes it's clean. None of us have our own bed. We share everything when we got it. Out the back, Mum got a bit of a lawn growing, and she waters it every day. There's always bottles and flagons by the bin because Auntie Nera drinks like a horse. So does Dad, and Uncle William too, a bit. Down by what was the back fence, there are 2 car bodies. Darryl has smashed all the windows now, just for something to do. They look a bit like what we're all going to be, I reckon. Perhaps that's why we surround ourselves with old rubbish. We're all going to be old rubbish when we die, or before. Well, now we got some money and there's a program about Charlie Pride on the radio. Everyone is happy and there's a good movie on TV. Tomorrow, there'll be fish and chips for tea. And that'll do me.
Kath Walker is widely known as a courageous fighter for Aboriginal rights. She became a poet to give a voice to the Aboriginal movement in the early 60s. Kath is settled at Moongalba on North Stradbroke Island, the traditional home of her people, the Nunuccal tribe. She has written 5 collections of poetry and prose, and the power of her work has been acknowledged worldwide.
Peace was yours, Australian man, with tribal laws you made, till white colonials stole your peace with rape and murder raid. They shot and poisoned and enslaved until a scattered few, only a remnant now remain, and the heart dies in you. The white man claimed your hunting grounds, and you could not remain. They made you work as menial for greedy private gain. Your tribes are broken vagrants now, wherever whites abide, and justice of the white man means justice to you denied. They bought you Bibles and disease, the liquor and the gun. With Christian culture such as these, the white command was won. A dying race, you linger on, degraded and oppressed. Outcasts in your own native land, you are the dispossessed. I wrote The Dispossessed in the early 60s when we were trying to gather up people to formed the civil rights movement. And what inspired me to write The Dispossessed was there were those in the political world who were extreme left-wingers, and there was extreme right-wingers. The Aboriginals were right in the middle, and they were all trying to get possession of the Aboriginal people. And this has been going on for the last 200 years. You know, they talk about the Aboriginals as our blacks. So I stood up and said, why don't you just stop and ask the Aborigines what they want? And of course, everything broke loose. And I went out very disillusioned and very bitter and very angry. And I went home that night and I put down in draft form a poem which finally became The Dispossessed. The condition for Aboriginals during that period of time was very bad. We have the highest rate of infant mortality in the world. We still have it. 17 of our children dies against 1 in the white world in this lucky country called Australia. We have the highest leprosy rate in the world in Western Australia in this so-called lucky country. Now, in the Australian years BC, and by that I mean before Cook, we were a disease-free race of people, and all these diseases came in. I heard the voices of my people, and every time I heard a story like that, I went home and I wrote a poem about it. They came into the little town, a semi-naked band, subdued and silent, all that remained of their tribe. They came here to the place of their old burial ground, where now the many white men hurry about like ants. Notice of estate agents read, rubbish may be tipped here. Now it half covers the traces of the old burial ground. They sit and are confused. They cannot say their thoughts. We are as strangers here now, but the white tribe are the strangers. We belong here. We are of the old ways. We are the quiet daybreak, pale in the dark lagoon. We are the shadow ghosts creeping back as the campfires burn low. We are nature and the past. All the old ways gone now and scattered. The scrubs are gone, the hunting and the laughter. The eagle is gone. The emu and kangaroo are gone from this place. The Boraringa's gone. The corroboree is gone. And we are going. And what I was saying to the politicians, all right, we are going. We can either, with your help, go forward, or because of your lethargic attitudes and you'll turn your back on us, we could go out the back door. So it was a double header and it was a hit. We Are Going is the most popular of all my books as far as the people are concerned, because they see it as theirs. Others I wrote after were not theirs, but that one is definitely theirs. And they had a new book in their hand where they were only taught to read the Bible or recite the Bible backwards and forwards, because the majority of them couldn't read nor write. But the Christians, so-called, and the churches made sure that they knew all about the Bible characters. And so here was a new addition to their very meagre library. And so We Are Going became a very big and wonderful thing in the lives of the Aboriginal people.
Trevor Nickolls was born in Adelaide, where he later gained a diploma from the South Australian School of Fine Art. He lived in Darwin and Sydney before setting up his studio in Melbourne. He has shown his work successfully throughout Australia and has recently been invited to exhibit in Europe.
Well, I started drawing and painting at a very early age, and I did it all the time while the other kids were out playing sport. I'd be inside drawing and making up my own pictures. And I think I was born with a paintbrush between my legs, and it just came natural to me to want to paint and draw from a very early age. I start off my paintings firstly with putting on a black base, because it seems to me a respectful thing to do instinctively, black on top. The dots are very flexible in that they can just as much depict the skin of the earth as a computer printout. They're like molecules exploding and everything is floating. This is one of the first self-portraits I did after leaving art school. I'd just gotten married at the time and had started my first job, so it sort of depicts me coming to terms with the real world and suburbia. It seemed to me a reflection at the time of also the American Negro situation, where he's become so assimilated into the white society and completely cut off from his original roots. Whereas I didn't think that could happen here, because the Aboriginal people are still connected with the land, and that's a difference. I try to work with an earth palette, red earth colour, the yellow for the sun, and the black, which is also the colours of the Aboriginal flag. One of the things that I like is ironies, and I try to work the imagery in my painting. Like the dollar sign is actually composed of the Dreamtime serpent and the tree of life, which becomes a dollar sign. It's a way of expressing the amount of damage we've done to the earth, ripping it apart for the progress of technology and importance of money. When I'm in the city, I feel alienated sometimes, like I'm on another world. Technology and science is so alien to us. It was like living inside a big tape recorder, which would just turn on at some early hour and go all day, and it would orchestrate itself. It makes me feel like screaming sometimes, like it's painting an image an upturned figure, which is screaming, let me out of here. Well, I think basically the theme of my work is the marrying of two cultures together, Aboriginal culture and Western culture. This face was one of the first ones that I did along the lines of that theme, with the left-hand side depicting Mother Nature, with the nose as Ayers Rock, symbolising knowledge, and the old man didgeridoo player. And then the right-hand side of the face is a person like a robot, extreme paranoia and freaked out. Try to stick to a traditional style, which is working with lines, dots, cross-hatching, X-ray, other forms of Aboriginal art, one of which is the stencil technique. I use boomerang as one of my stencils, which I paint around and then adapt it in a subject matter sense, so that it can either remain a boomerang or become a bird or a tree trunk. I like to work in a cycle where I do Dreamtime paintings, which are thinking about the way things were 200 years ago, and Machine Time paintings, which are political paintings about the city today. And this painting is more of a spiritual Dreamtime painting. Platypus I look upon as a totemic type of painting, which I adopted because it's such a collage of animals. Plus it has a sort of like a poison spur, which I can think of my brush being a bit like sometimes. Manly dreaming, that was a view from my window. It was just the experience that I kept feeling of what it would have been like 200 years ago when the invasion happened, the impact it would have made, seeing that boat come in there, the start of everything. The painting is made up purely of the Papunya dot technique, which was taught to me by Dinny Nolan, an artist from there who came to visit me, and we worked together in my studio. Being an artist is a very, very hard job. It takes a long, long time. It's a hard, lonely road, a bit like a gypsy existence. You're a fringe dweller, a freak living on the edge of society. I guess I'm at the point now where I've probably learnt Aboriginal art techniques and am now able to use them freely to express what I want.
Well, this place is Bailing Up. It's down in the southwest of Western Australia. It's a very special place to me because it used to be the big meeting ground for the Aboriginal tribes come down here. Most of the tribes used to keep in their own little territory, see, but this place here, Bailing Up, was a big fishing ground. It's a little magic land, you know, it's magic. And it's full of spirits, you know. Those hills up over there could have been a special hills, you know. And this forest down here is a blackwood forest, could have been real special forest. It's really hard to describe special to white people, you know, because they're too greedy, you know. All they want to do is to cut the land up and rip it up and get money out of it, you know. Whereas Aboriginal people respect the land, and it's part of their body. You know, you can't go cutting down trees, and it's like cutting off your fingers, you know, like that.
Once Watson's Pool would have had a more musical name that sang softly from brown lips. How many stories had rippled across this small green pool like the webbed feet of silent departing ducks stirring up the water. How many campfires lay buried beneath the sticky, warm black mud. How many dark young couples had lain together on the grassy bank, stared up at their stars and shared their dreams. Had these old paper barks heard stories about the coming of the first white man, the ghosts of the returned dead? Had the story of the white man's cruel laws and uncivilized ways reached even here? Had the pool's own people been chased and raped and diseased and destroyed forever, so only the stars and the moon and their reflections were left? One day, one of the walking dead men, bringing the stench of his kind ever inland, had stumbled upon this piece of beauty and in arrogance had named it after himself, Watson's Pool. But the pool itself would never die because it was fed by an indestructible underground spring and would stay green and glorious until the end of time.
Well, there's some Aboriginal people, you know, who don't even accept me really, because they reckon I'm not dark enough, you see. But you know, it's what you believe in your heart, you know. Because you know, it's like a spark, you know. You can't put it out. And in my writing, you know, a real good friend of mine was telling me, you can either just back out now and don't worry about it, go back home and get a woman and a couple of kids and get a job as a labourer or whatever you're going to do, you know. Or else you can just keep on writing, you know, and be a spearhead for Aboriginal people, you know. And that's what I'm going to be, because I like Aboriginal people. I feel that I am, and I always will be, you know. It's a little bit of power in my heart that no one can ever take away, you know. It's going to be there.
It's very difficult to live in a city when you come from a slow life. The city is very fast. It's very distracting. I've learned to put racism aside. I've got friends that I'm very close to here, and they're very supportive, white friends. Aboriginal art is changing. My people use bark painting and body for art, but For me, I've picked up lino printing, and occasionally I do fabric printings. For a long time, Aboriginal artists has been used, and their art's been used. In far as commercial art's concerned, people take Aboriginal designs and just put them on whatever they want without consulting the traditional owners of the design. Copyright, talking about copyrights, like I have to worry about what designs I use. I can't use a design from Western Australia or Central Australia. I couldn't do that. I have to use design that comes from the northern eastern Arnhem Land that belongs to my clan only. Anything to do with the creation and the journeys of my ancestors. And the design that goes with those stories, I used to consult my brother. If I had gone ahead and done something without consulting him, I would have been misusing my traditional art and the creation stories. Now I have to consult with my sisters because they're artists as well. My main totem is the goanna, and then following that is a bush turkey, which both represents my ancestral creator, Junkawo. Aboriginal art, it's more than a European artwork, only because the law that the artwork carries, it talks about ancestors, it talks about ownership of territory and land, all that. My father being an artist, leader, what if I'm doing something that he may approve of me doing something, and that's all I want, is my father to approve of me if I'm using our traditional art properly.
Trevor Nickolls is travelling to Central Australia to meet up again with his friend, artist Dinny Nolan.
Well, Dinny Nolan came to my studio in Melbourne and we worked together, and now I'm coming to visit his country, Papunya, and see his country is so stunning. The colour, the richness, the space, the depth, and also the way it relates to the Papunya painting. The landscape fits with the technique. I'm learning a lot. It's good to return to the Northern Territory and to feel the spirit of a dream time again. It just knocked me out the moment I got into this country, and it sort of wraps itself around you. You can just feel the spirit and the space and the dreaming and imagine how it was once upon a time.
It makes from like allow it makes him this one white.
I love this area in here. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
This is the water dreaming at Minkinji, west of Yuendamu. The three circles represent soakages, and the wavy lines linking them are flowing water. The short bars are body paint designs. The lines running the length of the painting are rainbows. The small semicircles are Dreamtime men singing the rain.
Michael Nelson Jacamara of the Walpiri people was recognised as Aboriginal Artist of the Year in 1984. He is one of the most prolific of the Papunya painters.
Well, this painting, I'm doing it. This is my grandfather's and great-great-grandfather's Dreamtime story. All this painting, you can see it now. This is tail track, and this is footprints of possum. Oh, there's the tail tracks. You see when the possum been walking. He had his tail like that. There's the mine places where they were staying. I've had him this one. There's a kangaroo one. Rock wallaby track, this one, and there's his finger.
This is the possum dreaming at the site of Wollongary. A long time ago, heavy rains fell here. The circles with the sinuous lines streaming from them represent a big storm. In the middle is a cave where two possum ancestors were sitting. They had captured a small joey and were eating it.
Oh, it's been really, really good to see some fresh work, and I've really felt I've learned a lot. The pennies dropped, you could say.
Five Wanapi snakes of the Dreamtime were drinking at waterholes at Kampi, near Amata, in my country. The Wanapi have come out at night to drink. The four circles are hills. The waterholes are surrounded by grassland.
Some people, they lost their culture. But here in the centre of Australia, we're very lucky to hold our Dreamtime stories. We got it in our head. Well, we followed this one.
This was my whole world. I never knew there was a world outside there when I was quite small. I had everything I needed here or ever wanted. I guess it still applies. I was classed as a naughty, stubborn child, pig-headed and sullen at school, and I was always getting into trouble, which my mother could never understand because all our other children were very good at school and well-behaved, but I was always the naughty one. And every time I got into trouble at school, I would become anti-everybody and go right out to low water mark to get away from them and just communicate with the birds. I knew where all the birds' nests were along the swamp there, and I used to pick up beautiful discarded birds' feathers and shells and things like that. And so I think this was my first part of learning the beauty and meaning of conservation. All our lives, of course, was built around stories because it's the Aboriginal way. And it's the do's and don'ts. It's handed down to us for a specific purpose. Nunuccal, as we know it, which the white man renamed Moreton Bay, there's a wonderful story about her too, because the old people used to say, the old woman of the waters, the spirit woman called Nunuccal, lived out there, and she will give gladly of her treasures, and you can catch the fish and the seashells, but never go near her when she's in a bad mood, because as nice as she is when she's calm, She's got the kick of the mule when she's angry, and no Aboriginal in their right sense would go near the old woman when she was in an angry mood. And so we used to wait for the fine weather and the calm weather to go and see her. But whenever we do go to see her, always we will pay back to her in kind, a tax, if you like, of whatever fish we catch. We will gut and scale them and throw the offal back as a thank you to the old woman. When I was a girl, it was beautiful, but since then, there's been a lot of changes, and it was inevitable. The white man calls it progress. The change has come. The miner rapes the heart of earth with his violent spade, stealing, bottling her black blood for the sake of greedy trade. On his metal throne of destruction, he labours away with a will, piling the mountainous minerals high with giant tool and iron drill. In his greedy lust for power, he destroys all nature's will. For the sake of the filthy dollar, he dirties the nest he builds. Well, he knows that violence of his destructive kind will be violently written upon the sands of time. The sand mining is the worst type of mining you can have in any country. And I think it's a great pity that Australia allowed the sand mining to take place. I know they're mad for the filthy dollar, but it's the most destructive way of earning a living. In spite of our protests, they have upset our sacred places and they've dug up the bones of our people, and they've done a heck of a lot of damage to the artefacts of the Aboriginal people. I'm sick and tired of talking to mentally constipated adults, and I think change will come with the young people anyway. So I spend most of my time talking to children about conservation and issues on Aboriginals and things like that, because I hope that the children will grow up being very conservation-minded and appreciate the beautiful world they have around them. There's man, he's come in and he's cut all the trees down and made a mess, like he always does, huh? Man's always cutting down things and making a mess of things. And it looks awful, doesn't it? He's cut far too many trees down, hasn't he? So we'll have to try and stop too much damage to the world, because that's what happens, you see, when he pollutes. Aeroplanes polluting and the truck is polluting and all the trees are going like that. And of course, we're hoping that when we all get together and learn to live in peace and harmony with one another and the animals and the birds, we'll have a new beginning and we'll all live happily ever after, eh? Eh? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? For 200 years, the white Australian who came into this country in the early stages, and right down to the 7th generation Australia white now, is still at war with us. They've never signed a peace treaty with us. Time to get the peace treaty out and signed. Perhaps next year might be a very ideal way of doing it in 1988, because we are celebrating our survival in 88 of 100,000 years. They are celebrating their bicentennial, but we will be celebrating our survival in spite of the great odds. So perhaps in 88 we might get a peace treaty signed.
No more boomerang, no more spear. Now we are civilized, color, bar and beer. No more crobbery, gay dance and din. Now we got the movies, pay to go in. Lay down the stone axe, take up the steel, work like a nigger for a white man's meal. Lay down the woomera, lay down the waddy, Now we got the atom bomb, and everybody